Good afternoon. Welcome to Jerusalem, Israel. I'm Avram Shira, and we have another in our series, Rabbi Nachman's masterwork, Likutei Moharan. We're in Torah Pei Aleph. We're in the last 20 lines. Hope to finish this up today. And you see sitting behind me the image of Rabbi Mordechai Sharabi, who was a great Kabbalist of the previous generation, who founded this yeshiva. And the people that have been here a long time all feel this certain attachment, especially the time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because the time we come back to our roots, we come back to our beginning. And where do we begin? Well, we begin with our teachers, because before we had Torah, we had no teachers, no spiritual guides, no gatekeepers, no one to say, come this way, try the Torah, see what's out there. And I had tried a lot. I've been around the world, and I've been in a lot of different spiritual settings and groups of people. And until I got here, I never really felt it, didn't feel it deep inside. I got here and I said, I'm home. The journey is over. I'm home. And that's 33 years. So, if you set out on a journey, don't quit ever. And you will arrive at your true spiritual address. So today's teaching is very beautiful. We're opening up with this idea of the letters of the Torah can be turned in different directions. Abba can be turned into Ba'a. Father comes. You just switch the letters. These are called serufim. Now, litzaref means to purify. It also means to join things together. And we take these different letters that teach us about one thing. When you invert them, they teach us about other things, but they're always related concepts. And we've been dealing with the concept of the holiness of Eretz Yisrael and the border of Eretz Yisrael. The holiness of the Ten Commandments and the pieces of the sapphire stone that Moses chiseled, those leftover pieces that God gave to Moses as income. And the idea of the tzaddik's words are like that sapphire, that holy stone, the holy land, the holy speech, but there's always an excess speech. And we learned that the excess speech of the tzaddik is useful because it connects to people who don't have a regular Torah connection. People that live their lives every day doing what they do, but they don't have the speech of Torah, the language, the access to that infinite wisdom. Although, of course, they do have it inside. It's our job, the people who work in this field, to help bring it out of everyone and to connect to it. And he explains to us that the tzaddik, what he'll do is use everyday language and everyday topics and subjects to speak with the average person until he connects his mind to the student's mind, or to the uneducated person's mind. And then by connecting to him through his everyday speech, then we introduce Torah ideas. So let's say, it's very simple, but it's of course not when we're talking about the elevation and connection of soul. But on the simplest level, you walk outside and someone says, it's so hot. And then you think of the verse by King David, Cham libi b'kirbi, my heart is hot within me. Suddenly you shift the meaning, the import of a person, it's hot outside, to it's hot inside. And that hot heart means desire for holy things. And so on and so forth. We start to build on a simple idea until you create a bridge of communication. And that's what we're here to do, to create those bridges of communication. So when we turn the letter combinations over, it's the same as the tzaddik connecting himself to the everyday folks, those who are far from Torah and far from truth, he says. But speak to them in their everyday non-holy speech. Torah, and to enclothe in that Torah. So, if someone loves sports, excuse me, if I like sports, then I can find a connection between sports, a healthy body, and a healthy body being a house for the soul. And so on and so forth. But he speaks in combinations that are different than you normally would see. And this other speech, this everyday speech, he calls the pasolet, the leftover of Eretz Israel. It's not the holy land itself, but on the borders, because that's where the Torah was given, on the borders of Eretz Israel, not in the actual Holy Land itself. And even though they are the borders of the land, the outside pieces of the land, Yeshrem Torah, there is Torah connected to them, just like there's Torah woven within your everyday speech. Which is the idea of Israel. And this is the idea of the verse, Alu but Negev, right? To go up in the Negev, in the southern region of the country where the nation came when it left Egypt. Shatem Hamon Ams Oli, because that's where the Aliyah, you see, that going up in the desert is really the elevation of the whole nation. It's not just a graphic description of the Torah of a people climbing a mountain. It's generations of people climbing the mountain of what? Of Torah knowledge. Where do we find that mountain of Torah knowledge? In the tzaddikim. Ki ze kol adam. And this is the idea of all men. King Solomon says that the purpose of all men is to fear God, to be close to God. And when you fear Him, you're in awe of Him, you're attached. It's a deep, simple secret, folks. The moment you think of Hashem, you're actually attached to Him. Because your tool of attachment is your mind. Now, maybe your tool of attachment is one thin wire, or maybe it's a cable like that big or that big. But the thinking is the attachment itself. So don't ask where God is. He's in my attachment to Him through the thoughts of the mind. Because He's everywhere. But personally, He's in that attachment place. And this is the idea of coming up, the nation coming up through the attachment to the tzaddik and through the das of the tzaddik, which is called the mountain. And this is the Negev in the south, in the desert of the south. The Bechinat Tzaddik, the righteous person, who is Vechiz Kozeh Kol Adam. This is the true purpose of all men. It's not amassing money or pleasure or toys. It's not why we're here. And our sages taught also, Mesechet Shabbat, Shekol Olam Lo Nivra Ela L'Tzavod Hazeh. The whole world was created that God could give us the command to keep His Torah, to create that relationship. You know what tzaddik, which is the tzaddik, and then when the minute you attach to the Torah, you become righteous. Because you follow its simple teachings, and you see how perfect they really are, and how they keep us on the path, and keep us coming back when we fall. Well, Apasolat to Eretz Israel, this excess or the outside boundary of Eretz Israel, this is the everyday speech. And therefore we can attach to anybody according to their everyday speech. Because you know that their everyday speech has sparks of holiness in it. So never ever put down people's everyday speech. Now if they speak with curses and bad words, that's a little different. And this is the idea of to going up the mountain, as we just said, Shehu Adat, and this is the knowledge, the wisdom, the awareness of the tzaddik, ki lefamim tzaddik nofel medregato, because sometimes the righteous guy falls too. Okay, sheba echad min ha'amonam, and then when an everyday person comes to him, umedaverimo devarim shel hevle olam, and he speaks to him the vanities of the world, like I said, sports, weather, all this stuff that people talk about. A tzaddik, the tzaddik still gets pleasure because it's coming from that Jewish soul. And people's attachment to something is a source of pleasure because you see their attachment to it, and you're like, you see your child when he's playing, he's having such a great time. Just watching them play is a pleasure because you're watching a human being function in the world and accomplish things, however little they may be. And that gives the tzaddik power, new life force, to elevate the person who gave him the pleasure. through his speech, Bechinat Adat, which is his dash, V'zeu Alu. This is going up in the midbar, the idea of going up in the desert, in the lower place to the higher place. And the tzaddik needs to come back up to his true level. You have to get to that level of being in the outside the land, the outside the holy speech, the outside the place of the essence of the thing and to the excess of the thing, because that's where it's coming from. There are sparks there. That is to speak everyday talk with everyday people in order to receive life force. So you can get life force from anywhere. I see my grandkids, I just feel good, no matter what kind of mood I'm in. And so forth, when you see your family, you see your wife or your husband or whoever it is, a stranger, you could just watch them and get life force from what they're doing. But you have to have a pure heart and you have to pay attention. And when you have this Torah in your pocket from Rabbi Nachman teaching you these ideas, then you suddenly, you don't get bored with life because it's all happening all around you. These sparks of God are elevating. And you bring them back to the mountain, this knowledge of the tzaddik, the kasher etchem b'chirat dat, and then you attach that back to the central knowledge of the knowledge of Torah, and you see that it's all one giant umbrella of understanding that spreads out and further to every single human being. What a great world when we're all connected like that. Baruch Adonai Elolam Amen. Amen. We finished Torah Pei Aleph. Well, next week I assume we're going to head on. Well, wait a minute. We're still in the middle of the week, and every day feels like Erev Shabbat. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's Tishrei. It's really from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. We have these 10 days. They're special days. We need to use them for the best thing we can, of course, which is coming back to Hashem, using our speech, elevating the speech to the Creator and His speech, and we become one. And then you become the person you knew you always were. God bless you all. We'll see you again. All the best.